Here is my audience for my persuasive speech on recent changes to the college athletic landscape. Many people find it hard to understand Americans' obsession with college sports. When comparing the time, money, and fan engagement that Americans pour into their student-athlete programs, there is no comparison. In 2019, the National College Association for Athletics estimated that Division I schools alone pulled in an estimated $15.8 billion in revenue. The recent additions of the transfer portal and NIL have changed the landscape of college athletics forever, but this raises dangers and issues for our student athletes and their personal development. Through the use of NIL and the transfer portal, student athletes and entire teams can be built up or destroyed. NIL is universal shorthand for a student athlete's ability to control and profit from their name, image, and likeness. Through the transfer portal, Power 5 schools can poach star players from other programs and lure them to their school through the use of NIL packages. Today I will explain how the current system is not only broken, but damages our student athletes. In the current 2024 system, there is no salary cap on schools, so there is no level playing field. Where it used to be that players could face suspensions for so much as selling signed jerseys, in today's world, $1,000 NIL deals are nothing more than the starting offer that some schools give to players. There are no essential contracts between students and schools, and the line between professional athlete and student athlete are increasingly blurred. I'd like to examine the recent timeline from a college football player, Kadyn Proctor. He is the former 5-star and the overall number 5 recruit from 2023. And I'm going to be reading from a timeline that was gathered from the University of Iowa's News Gazette. In spring 2023, Proctor enrolls and commits to the University of Alabama. In fall of the same year, he starts 13 games as left tackle. On January 17th of 2024, he enters the transfer portal, and then 3 days later, he commits to the University of Iowa. On March 10th, Brad Hendricks, the CEO of Iowa's top NIL arm, confirms that Proctor received an undisclosed 5 figures of NIL money from an unnamed business that supports Iowa athletes. 9 days later, Proctor re-enters the transfer portal and recommits to Alabama. Commitment to being a teammate is an invaluable part of a young athlete's personal development and growth. A commitment to a program's culture and community is what bolsters that community's performance. But in the current NIL transfer portal landscape, there is no commitment or accountability to hold student athletes to, and their personal development and growth will suffer because of it, as they chase after NIL deals instead of degrees. Retired college basketball coach Cliff Ellis says, "Education gets lost in the system. Student is no longer a valued part of the student-athlete's experience." I'm going to show and pull up a chart which shows graduates and undergraduate entrance into the transfer portal these past 3 years. So before I continue with my solutions to the current problems, I would like to reinforce my belief that the current system is a step forward from the one we had before. For many years, school athletic departments and university banks grew obscenely wealthy off the name, image, and likeness of college athletes who could do nothing about it. But it's not that I want to do away with the system that we currently have, but improve upon it with regulation. First of all, concerning NIL, schools and their boosters are already illegally tampering and using loopholes to practically buy players to come play for them. Unless the NCAA is going to launch full-scale investigations into pretty much every major Power 5 school or program, there's nothing that more regulations are going to do about that. But I would want to float the idea of prohibiting NIL payments to players until after they are enrolled and have begun classes. Next, I would introduce 3 fundamental changes to the transfer portal, which is my main focus. Number 1, I would change the transfer window's operation from within the season of play to outside. This would limit chaos amongst coaches and players in the mad dash to get the right fit for their teams. Number 2, I would open a temporary school-specific windows for student athletes whose coaches have either been fired or who have left to take other jobs. And these students would be allowed immediate eligibility for play the next starting season. And number 3, I would reinstate the 1-year ban on all other transfers outside of students who have lost their coach or who have suffered season-ending injuries. This will prevent excessive transfers. Let me see. The current system in which the NIL and transfer portal operate is damaging for students, but with increased regulation, we can make sure that they not only receive financial compensation, but personal and character growth as well. I'm going to pass around a card for my tangible object, which is a link to the On3 website, which shows the current amount of players who are in the transfer portal this year. I'd also like to leave you with a quote from former Villanova men's basketball head coach, Jay Wright, who says, "I want there to still be a difference between being a professional athlete and a student athlete. And I want players to be able to come to school still wanting their education and then be able to benefit from their name, image, and likeness." Thank you. I'll now take questions.
What was the 1-year thing you were talking about?
So it used to be before the current rules that if a player transferred from one school to another, they had to sit out a year before they could play. But how it is now, if I transfer from one school to another just because I feel like it's a better opportunity, then I can play immediately. But it used to be that you would only be able to do that if I think you'd suffered an injury. So that's what I was going to reintroduce with some of my new rules.
Is there any limit on how many transfers you can do?
So right now there is one, basically just transfer wherever you like. That's one. Second, you can argue for like a personal reasons, like if you didn't get enough playing time or if you feel like there was malpractice. And there's a third where it's a postgraduate. So if you've already graduated, then you can transfer a third time. So pretty much how it is, with only 4 or 5 years of eligibility, you'll pretty much, most players are going to be transferring every single year with the current setup. If there's no more questions, then thank you for watching.